the night of November 6, 2020. A 77-year-old man stands before cameras from around the world. His blue eyes reflect decades of suppressed pain. This moment represents the end of a journey that began more than 50 years earlier, a journey paved with boundless ambition and unimaginable tragedy. But to understand how he got here, we must go back to the beginning, to a place where it all began, to the gray streets of an industrial city that molded the boy who would one day become the 46th President of the United States. Scranton, Pennsylvania, 1942. A city of smoking chimneys, coal trains, and working-class Irish Catholic families working to the bone. Joseph Robinette Biden, Jr. was born in this city on November 20th of that year. His father, Joseph Sr., had known better days. The Biden family had enjoyed a measure of prosperity, but the Great Depression changed everything. Young Joe grew up watching his father clean boilers and sell used cars to keep the family afloat. The economic humiliation marked his childhood like an invisible scar. The classrooms of St. Helena Catholic School. A dark-haired boy stands at the front of the class, transfixed. He tries to read aloud, but the words catch in his throat like broken glass. BBB Biden, his classmates mock. His stuttering makes him the target of constant ridicule. The nuns force him to recite in front of everyone, believing that shame will cure him. It doesn't work. It only deepens his isolation. But in the solitude of his room, little Joe practices in front of the mirror for hours. He recites poems by Yeats and Emerson until his tongue learns to obey. This will be his first act of iron will against fate. 1953. The Biden family leaves Scranton. The coal industry collapses, and with it, opportunities. They move to Claymont, Delaware, where Joseph Sr. finds work selling cars. Young Joe is 11 years old. Delaware becomes his new home, although Scranton will remain his political identity forever. On the streets of Wilmington, the teenage Biden discovers that his looks and charisma can compensate for his stutter. He's athletic, handsome, and when he speaks with confidence, people listen. University of Delaware, 1963. A young woman with blonde hair and a bright smile walks across campus. Her name is Nylia Hunter. She comes from a wealthy New York family, the kind of family the Bidens could only admire from afar. Joe Biden sees her during spring break in Nassau, Bahamas. He's 21 and studying history and politics. She represents everything he aspires to achieve: elegance, class, confidence. He pursues her with unwavering determination. They married on August 27, 1966. Nylia became his anchor, his mentor, the woman who believed in his unlimited potential. Together they dreamed of greatness. Syracuse University, College of Law. Biden is a mediocre student. He admits years later that he was almost expelled in his freshman year for plagiarizing a scholarly article. He managed to graduate in 1968, ranked 76th out of a class of 85 students. But Biden doesn't need to be academically brilliant. He possesses something more valuable in politics: personal magnetism and boundless ambition. At 25, he's already planning his political career. He wants power. He wants it desperately. Wilmington, Delaware, 1969. Biden works as a public defender and then opens his own law firm. He defends minor cases, but his mind is elsewhere. He watches local politicians. He studies their movements, their rhetoric, their connections. During these years, Nylia gives birth to 3 children. Joseph Robinette III, nicknamed Beau, was born in 1969. Robert Hunter, known as Hunter, arrived in 1970. Naomi Christina, their only daughter, was born in 1971. The perfect family, the perfect wife, the emerging career. Everything falls into place. 1972. Biden is 29 years old when he makes the boldest decision of his life, challenging Cale Boggs, a popular 2-term Republican senator, for the United States Senate. Everyone tells him it's impossible. Boggs is a Delaware institution. Biden is an unknown with no money or significant political connections. The polls have him trailing by 30 points. But Biden sees opportunity where others see madness. The Vietnam War is bleeding the country dry. Watergate is beginning to stain the Republican Party. And Biden has something Boggs doesn't: hunger. Delaware's rural roads. A green pickup truck crisscrosses the state day and night. Nylia drives as Biden gets out at each stop, shaking hands, kissing babies, promising change. Her entire family is involved in the campaign. Her sister Valerie handles strategy. Her parents knock on doors. Biden presents himself as a candidate of the common man, the boy from Scranton who understands the struggles of working families. He attacks the war, criticizes the establishment, and speaks of social justice. His stutter has practically disappeared. When he speaks, he projects conviction. November 7, 1972. The election results are trickling in. Biden is at home with Nylia and his children. The numbers are starting to favor him. Delaware is undergoing a historic reversal. When his victory by 3,000 votes is confirmed, Biden becomes the sixth youngest senator in U.S. history. At 29, he has achieved the impossible. Nylia hugs him, her eyes shining with pride. Her 3 young children don't fully understand what it means, but they feel the electricity in the air. The future stretches out before them like a lit highway. Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. is unstoppable. Power is within his grasp, but fate has other plans. Terrible plans that will change everything forever. Washington, D.C., December 18, 1972. Joseph Biden walks through the halls of the Capitol, preparing for his swearing-in as a senator. He has just turned 30. His life is perfect. In 48 hours, all of that will cease to exist. In Delaware, Nylia Biden is preparing a Christmas tree with her 3 children. Bo is 3, Hunter is 2, and little Naomi just turned 1. They need to buy the perfect tree. They head out in the family Chevrolet to a local nursery, Hockessin, Delaware, intersection of Route 213 and Route 7. 2:30 p.m. Nylia's Chevrolet approaches an intersection. A corn delivery truck, driven by Curtis C. Dunn, is traveling in the opposite direction. The exact details will never be completely clear. What is irrefutable is the sound. Metal against metal, exploding glass, children screaming. The truck hits the driver's side of the family car. 30-year-old Nylia Biden died instantly. Her 13-month-old daughter, Naomi, also perished on impact. Bo and Hunter survived with severe injuries. Broken bones, head trauma, wounds that will leave permanent physical and emotional scars. Biden is in Washington interviewing staff for his Senate office when he gets the call. His siblings have to tell him twice because his mind refuses to process the words. There was an accident. Nylia and Naomi are dead. The children are in the hospital. The man who minutes before was planning his political future collapses. There's no strategy for this. There are no memorized words. There's only a black void that threatens to swallow him whole. Wilmington Medical Center. Biden arrives and rushes to the pediatric intensive care unit. His 2 young sons lie in hospital beds. Bo has a cast on his leg and bandages on his head. Hunter is hooked up to machines. Both boys look up at him with eyes that have seen too much for their age. Biden settles into the hospital. He doesn't eat. He barely sleeps. For weeks, he stays by his children's side, reading them stories, promising them everything will be okay, even though he himself doesn't believe in anything. Doctors warn of psychological trauma. The children have lost their mother and sister. They have experienced incomprehensible terror. The recovery will be long and painful. At night, when the children are sedated and asleep, Biden paces the hospital hallways with his fists clenched. Rage boils inside him. For years, a rumor will circulate that the truck driver was drunk, something Biden will mention publicly on several occasions. It's not true. Curtis Dunn wasn't intoxicated, but Biden needs to blame someone. He also blames himself. If he had been in Delaware instead of Washington, if he hadn't won the election, if he had chosen a different life. Survivor guilt consumes him. His Catholic faith disintegrates. He won't set foot in a church regularly for decades. The God he grew up with has taken away the one thing he loved more than power. Senator-elect Joseph Biden resigns before being sworn in. He can't. He doesn't care about the Senate. He doesn't care about politics. His children need a father, not a senator. Democratic Majority Leader Mike Mansfield travels to Delaware personally. He pleads with Biden to reconsider. Your children need to know their father didn't give up, he tells him. They need to see that life goes on. Other Democratic leaders are applying pressure. They finally propose a compromise. Biden will be sworn in, but he will be able to live in Delaware and commute to Washington by train every day. He can resign after 6 months if he wishes. January 3rd, 1973. The hospital room where Bo and Hunter are still recovering is transformed into a makeshift Senate chamber. Biden is sworn in at his children's bedsides. It is the most unusual moment in American senatorial history. He places his hand on a Bible that no longer means anything to him. He repeats the words of the oath in a hollow voice. Photographers capture images of a broken man trying to maintain his composure for the sake of his children. Bo and Hunter watch in disbelief as their father becomes one of the most powerful men in the country. All they know is that Mom and Naomi aren't coming back. Wilmington train station. Every morning at 6:45, Biden boards the Amtrak for Washington, a 90-minute journey. He returns every night to have dinner with his children and put them to bed. This ritual will become his identity for 36 years. The other senators travel a few times a year to their states. Biden travels daily. He rejects evening events in Washington. He never stays for dinner with colleagues. His children are his one unwavering commitment. On the train, Biden works. He reads documents. He prepares speeches. But he also thinks. During those 90 minutes a day, loneliness overtakes him. Nylia's memories haunt him. The Wilmington house that Nylia had so lovingly decorated now resembles a mausoleum. Biden hires nannies but fires many. His mother and sister Valerie take turns helping out. Bo and Hunter develop severe separation anxiety. They cry when Biden leaves. They have nightmares. Biden learns to cook. He learns to style hair. He learns to be a mother and father simultaneously. At night, after the children are asleep, he sits alone in the kitchen and cries. He considered suicide multiple times during this dark period. Years later, he would publicly admit that he understood why people take their own lives. Only his children kept him tethered to existence. After 6 months, the time has come to decide. Will she resign from the Senate to devote herself completely to her children? Or will she continue with the career she worked so hard to build? Biden watches Bo and Hunter play in the garden. They've made physical progress, but the emotional scars will remain forever. They need stability. They need normalcy. They need to see their father functioning. He decides to remain in the Senate, not out of political ambition. That died with Nylia, but because giving up would teach his children that trauma should destroy us. It's a decision that will define the next 50 years of his life. But there's one question Biden can't answer yet. Is it possible to rebuild a life after such devastation? Can a broken man find happiness again? March 1975. 3 years after the accident. Biden is 32 and still the widowed senator who travels by train. His brothers insist he get out and meet new people. He resists. One day, Bo points to a photograph on a billboard for the Wilmington airport. "Dad, that's the woman for you," says his 6-year-old son. It's Jill Jacobs, a 24-year-old who was working as a model for local advertisements while studying at the University of Delaware. Biden calls her. She declines. He insists. She finally agrees, only to have him stop calling. She doesn't want to get involved with a politician, especially one with 2 young children and a recent tragedy. Biden takes her to the theater, then to dinner, then to another event. Jill discovers that behind the charismatic senator is a deeply wounded man determined to heal. He is different with her, vulnerable, honest, without the mask he wears in public. But Jill is cautious. She's already been married briefly. She has her own dreams. She wants to be a teacher, to have an independent career. Getting involved with Biden means taking on enormous responsibilities. 2 traumatized children, a husband who travels constantly, a life under public scrutiny. Biden proposes to her 5 times before she accepts. He doesn't want to pressure her, but he also can't imagine his life without her. June 17th, 1977. Biden and Jill marry in a small ceremony at the United Nations Chapel in New York City. Beau and Hunter are present. The Biden family begins its second chapter. Jill doesn't try to replace Nylia. She allows the children to call her by name, but she gradually becomes a mother in everything but the title. She accompanies them to soccer games. She helps them with homework. She hugs them when they have nightmares. Biden watches as Jill rebuilds her home. For the first time since the accident, laughter returns to the house. The children smile genuinely. He allows a small light of hope to penetrate their darkness. Senate Judiciary Committee, late 1970s. Biden established himself as a moderate liberal voice. He's not the brightest or hardest working senator, but he's effective. He knows how to build relationships. He knows when to compromise and when to stand firm. His specialty becomes foreign policy and criminal justice. He travels constantly, always returning for dinner, building experience in international affairs. He develops relationships with leaders from both parties. In 1981, Ashley Biden, his daughter with Jill, was born. He now has 3 children again. The family is complete. 1984. Reagan is overwhelmingly reelected. The Democratic Party needs renewal. Biden looks ahead to 1988, the presidency. More than a decade has passed since the accident. He's rebuilt his life. He has a stable family. Solid senatorial experience. He's young, handsome, and articulate. Why not him? He begins to build his exploratory team. He travels to Iowa and New Hampshire. He perfects his pitch. He speaks about social justice, foreign policy, the American dream. He is convincing when he speaks from the heart. June 9, 1987. Biden officially announces his presidential candidacy. Initial polls are promising. He's running second or third in the Democratic race. The media treats him as a serious contender. His central message is generational. It's time for a new generation to lead America, he proclaims. He is 44 years old. He represents change after Reagan. For months, the campaign gains momentum. Donors arrive. Endorsements pile up. Biden envisions the White House. After all he suffered, he'll finally reach the top. September 1987. A video begins to circulate. Biden, in a Democratic debate in Iowa, repeating almost verbatim a speech by British Labour leader Neil Kinnock. The words, the cadences, even the biographical references are identical. He couldn't believe it. The media digs up more cases. During law school, other political speeches. Biden has a pattern of appropriating others' language without attribution. It's not illegal, but it is dishonest. The scandal explodes. Biden, the plagiarist, dominates the headlines. His poll numbers collapse. Donors disappear. His integrity, the foundation of his political brand, is destroyed. September 23, 1987. Barely 3 months after announcing it, Biden withdrew from the presidential race. He faced the cameras and admitted his mistakes. "I've made mistakes, but they're not in my heart," he said. It's humiliating. After rebuilding his life after the tragedy, building a senatorial career, daring to dream of the presidency, it all collapses due to his own negligence. He returns to Delaware defeated. Jill comforts him. His children support him. But Biden feels like a failure. Supreme power was within his grasp, and he let it slip away. February 1988. Biden is in his Senate office when an explosive pain shoots through his head. It's so intense that he collapses. A brain aneurysm has just ruptured. He is 45 years old and possibly minutes to live. He is rushed to Walter Reed Hospital. Surgeons operate for hours. They discover a second aneurysm that also requires surgery. The chances of surviving both operations are uncertain. The chances of surviving without permanent brain damage are even lower. Jill remains in the hospital day and night. His children pray, even though he taught them to doubt God. For 7 months, Biden has been out of the Senate, recovering, learning to speak smoothly again, and facing his own mortality. September 1988. Biden returns to the Senate. His hair is whiter. His stride is slower. But his mind is intact. He survived again when the odds were against him. The near-death experience changes his perspective. The presidency can wait. He has more time. He has a second chance at life. Technically his third, if you count Niley's accident. He refocused on his senatorial work. In 1988, he was easily reelected for his third term. In 1994, for his fourth. In 2000, for his fifth. He became an institution in Delaware and a respected figure in Washington. But presidential ambition never truly dies. It only hibernates, waiting for the right moment to resurface. (1987) Biden becomes chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, one of the most powerful positions in Congress. In this position, he will oversee judicial nominations, civil rights legislation, and the most controversial hearings of the era. His first major challenge comes immediately. Robert Bork, Reagan's nominee for the Supreme Court. Bork is brilliant, but ideologically extreme. Biden leads the opposition. During the televised hearings, Biden demonstrates his ability to question without appearing hostile. Bork is rejected. It's a historic Democratic victory. Biden emerges as a party leader capable of standing up to the executive branch. October 1991. Another conservative Supreme Court nominee, Clarence Thomas. The hearings seem routine until law professor Anita Hill alleges that Thomas sexually harassed her years earlier when he was her supervisor. Biden must decide how to handle the allegations. Republicans are pushing to downplay them. Feminists are demanding they be taken seriously. Biden is scheduling additional hearings, but is limiting the testimony of other potential witnesses who could corroborate Hill. For 3 days, the nation watched as Hill testified in detail about Thomas's behavior. He categorically denied everything, calling it a high-tech lynching. The Judiciary Committee was divided. Biden is harshly criticized from both sides. Feminists argue he didn't sufficiently defend Hill. Conservatives accuse him of allowing a media circus. Thomas is narrowly confirmed by the full Senate. Biden will admit decades later that he mishandled the hearings. It's a stain on his legacy that will come back to haunt him. 1994. Partially in response to criticism over the Thomas case, Biden sponsors a Violence Against Women Act. This comprehensive legislation provides funding for domestic violence research, creates federal offices dedicated to the issue, and establishes new legal protections for victims. Biden works tirelessly to pass it. He builds bipartisan coalitions. He negotiates with skeptical Republicans. Finally, the bill passes as part of the broader crime reform package. It's considered his most significant legislative achievement. For years, Biden will mention this law in every campaign. It's his credential with female voters. During the 1990s, Biden positioned himself as tough on crime. This was an era of rising violent crime. Politicians from both parties competed to appear tougher. Biden co-sponsored the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. It's massive. It expands the federal death penalty, eliminates college education for prisoners, incentivizes states to build more prisons, and establishes harsher mandatory minimum sentences. At the moment, he's politically popular. Biden boasts on the Senate floor about his toughness. "Don't talk to me about being tough on crime," he says. "I wrote the damn law." Decades later, this legislation will be seen as a catalyst for mass incarceration that disproportionately affected African American communities. Biden will face harsh criticism and eventually apologize. But in the 1990s, it makes him a conservative Democratic hero. 1993 to 1999. As Yugoslavia disintegrates into brutal ethnic wars, Biden becomes a leading voice calling for U.S. intervention. He visits the Balkans. He meets with leaders. He pressures Clinton to act more decisively. As ethnic cleansing in Bosnia intensifies, Biden advocates NATO bombing. As Slobodan Milosevic launches a genocidal campaign in Kosovo, Biden again pushes for military intervention. His stance is risky. Military intervention is publicly unpopular, but Biden genuinely believes in the responsibility to protect. His experience in the Balkans will shape his views on humanitarian intervention. Gore versus Bush. Biden is mentioned as a possible running mate for Al Gore. It doesn't happen. Gore chooses Joe Lieberman. Biden watches from the sidelines as Florida becomes the most controversial state in American electoral history. The Supreme Court decision halts the recount. President Bush. Biden is 58 years old. He has been in the Senate for almost 30 years. He is respected, but he will never be president. That ambition seems definitively dead. September 11, 2001. Biden is on the train to Washington when the attacks occur. He sees the smoke rising from the Pentagon. America has changed forever, and with it, Biden's career will take an unexpected turn. As chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Biden becomes a central figure in the U.S. response. He supports the invasion of Afghanistan. He votes for the authorization for use of military force. The nation is united in its thirst for justice. 2002, the Bush administration pushes for an invasion of Iraq. They claim Saddam Hussein possesses weapons of mass destruction. Colin Powell presents evidence at the United Nations. The country is heading toward another war. Biden, as chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, holds hearings. He hears testimony from experts. Many are skeptical, but the political pressure is immense. To oppose, it means appearing weak in the face of terrorism. On October 11th, 2002, Biden votes to authorize a war in Iraq. It's a decision that will haunt him for decades. There are no weapons of mass destruction. Iraq becomes a bloody swamp. Thousands of Americans die. Hundreds of thousands of Iraqis perish. Biden will try to qualify his vote for years. He'll say he voted to authorize force, not necessarily war. He'll say Bush mishandled the situation. But the vote remains on his record. It's his original sin in foreign policy. 2003. Biden is considering another presidential bid. He's 60. It's his last realistic chance. He explores again, forms a committee, travels to Iowa. But he's not generating momentum. Howard Dean dominates the conversation with his opposition to the Iraq War. John Kerry has military credentials. John Edwards has youth and Southern charisma. Biden has no clear path. In January 2004, in the Iowa caucuses, Biden received less than 1% of the vote. It was humiliating. He immediately withdrew. His presidential dream was officially dead. He returned to the Senate defeated. He was reelected for his sixth term in 2002. He remained a senator, respected but never the main man. 2004 Democratic National Convention in Boston. A relatively unknown Illinois state senator gives a keynote address. His name is Barack Hussein Obama. He is 43 years old, half Kenyan, half white American, and possesses magnetic charisma. Biden watches the speech on television. Obama speaks of hope, of an America united, not divided, of transcending race and party. It's electrifying. The crowd goes wild. Biden sees something familiar in Obama. Pure ambition, natural charisma, a hunger for greatness. He sees a younger, more talented version of himself. In 2005, Obama entered the U.S. Senate. Biden became his mentor. He taught him how to navigate the Senate, how to build coalitions, and how to project authority without arrogance. What Biden doesn't anticipate is that this young apprentice will completely change his life. Obama won't just achieve the power Biden always desired. He'll take it with him on the journey. August 2008. Biden is in Delaware when his phone rings. It's Barack Obama, now the Democratic presidential candidate. Joe, I need you to be my vice president. Biden is surprised. He's 65. Obama is 46. Biden is the white establishment. Obama is the candidate of change. On the surface, they don't fit together. But strategically, he's brilliant. Biden brings decades of foreign policy experience, connections with senators, credibility with white, working-class voters. He can make up for Obama's perceived youth. Biden accepts. After 2 failed presidential bids, he will finally make it to the White House, not as president, but as the man behind the president. Biden launches into the campaign with energy. He fiercely attacks Republicans. At a rally, he says of the financial crisis, "This is not a joke. The middle class is being buried." It becomes his slogan. But he also makes characteristic mistakes. He tells a voter in a wheelchair to stand up for everyone to see. He describes Obama as the first African American who is articulate, bright, clean, and good-looking. Obama must do damage control. Republicans are trying to use Biden's tendency to blunder against him. But in the vice presidential debates against Sarah Palin, Biden is measured and effective. He doesn't attack her too aggressively. It would be frowned upon to harshly attack a woman, but he exposes her limitations. November 4th, 2008. Obama wins overwhelmingly. Biden is now Vice President-elect of the United States. At 65 years old, after 36 years in the Senate, he finally assumes executive power. In Delaware, Bo and Hunter hug their father. Jill cries with happiness. Ashley celebrates. The Biden family has reached the pinnacle of American power. Biden thinks of Nylia, of Naomi, of all the years of pain and rebuilding. He thinks of his aneurysms, of his presidential failures. It all led to this moment. January 20th, 2009. Biden is sworn in as the 47th vice president. But from the outset, it's clear he won't be a window-dressing vice president. Obama gives him real responsibilities. Biden oversees the implementation of the $787 billion economic stimulus package to combat the Great Recession. He travels the country selling the plan. He also becomes the main liaison with the Senate. When Obama needs votes, he sends Biden. Biden knows each senator personally. He knows what motivates them, what they need, how to negotiate. Obama names Biden as his main focus on Iraq. It's ironic. The man who voted for the war must now help end it. Biden visits Iraq multiple times. He meets with Iraqi leaders. He pushes for reconciliation between factions. He oversees the withdrawal of U.S. troops. In 2011, U.S. combat forces completely withdraw. It's complicated. ISIS will emerge years later, but in the moment, it feels like closure. Biden can say he helped end the war. He helped start. May 2012. Biden appears on Meet the Press. The host asks about same-sex marriage. Obama officially opposes it, although everyone knows he's evolving. Biden, without much hesitation, says, "I'm absolutely comfortable with the fact that men marrying men, women marrying women, they're all entitled to exactly the same rights." It's a historic moment. The Vice President of the United States has just publicly endorsed gay marriage before the president. The White House is panicking. Biden has just forced Obama's hand. Days later, Obama announces that he too supports gay marriage. Politically, it's risky. It's an election year. But culturally, it's transformative. Biden inadvertently accelerated history. May 2015. Bo Biden, 46, Delaware's Attorney General, the perfect son, dies of brain cancer. He had battled glioblastoma for 2 years. Joe and Jill were at his side as he passed away. Biden is devastated. Again, 43 years after losing Nylia and Naomi, he loses Bo, the son who survived the crash, the son who would serve in Iraq, the son who was going to be a governor, a senator, maybe a president. Obama attends a funeral. He delivers the eulogy. Biden was a magnificent son, he says, while Biden weeps openly. For months, Biden has been unable to fully function. Depression consumes him. He considers retiring from politics altogether. He's given enough. He's lost too much. 2015. Hillary Clinton announces her presidential candidacy. She's the overwhelming favorite. Biden must decide. Does he run? He's 72 years old. He's in mourning. But he's also a vice president with universal name recognition. This is his last chance to be president. Obama advises her not to compete. He doesn't say he prefers Clinton, but it's implied. Democratic donors are already committed to Hillary. The party has decided. On October 21st, 2015, Biden announced that he would not run. Standing in the Rose Garden with Obama and Jill, he said, "Unfortunately, I am out of time to be able to mount a winning campaign for the nomination." It's his final farewell to his presidential ambitions. Or so he thinks. November 2016. Donald Trump defeats Hillary Clinton. Biden watches in horror. Trump represents everything he despises: vulgarity, dishonesty, divisiveness. But he also sees something else: opportunity. Trump won the very states Biden knows intimately: Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin. He won the white working-class voters Biden always claimed to represent. Biden starts to think, if Hillary had lost those states, but he knows them better than anyone, if he had been the nominee, January 20th, 2017, Trump is sworn in. Obama and Biden leave office. Biden is 74 years old. For the first time since 1973, he is neither a senator nor vice president. He moves to a house in Virginia. He writes memoirs. He gives lucrative speeches. He creates the Biden Cancer Foundation in Bo's honor. He tries to enjoy time with Jill and his grandchildren, but he can't leave politics. He watches Trump dismantle Obama's legacy. He watches Charlottesville, where white supremacists march with torches. He watches Trump defend good people on both sides. Biden tells friends, that son of a bitch, that son of a bitch. The flame wasn't extinguished. It just needed new fuel. Trump is that fuel. At 76, Joe Biden will consider doing the impossible one last time. March 2019. Biden's home in Delaware. An extraordinary family reunion. Biden is 76 years old. He wants to run for president a third time. His family must decide whether to support him. Jill is skeptical. They've enjoyed a private life. They're financially secure. Why return to the brutality of a presidential campaign at this age? Hunter, his surviving son, is facing personal problems: divorce, addiction, scandals. A campaign will expose everything under national scrutiny. But Ashley supports him. The grandchildren encourage him. And Biden feels he owes this to Bo. On his deathbed, Bo begged him to run. Dad, you have to do it. You're the only one who can beat Trump. The family finally agrees. One last campaign. April 25th, 2019. Biden launches his campaign with a video focused on Charlottesville. We are in a battle for the soul of this nation, he declares. This isn't a policy campaign. It's a moral campaign against Trump. He's the immediate favorite. Polls place him ahead of the crowded Democratic field: Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, and 24 others. Biden has name recognition, a connection to Obama, and appeals to moderate voters. But he's also 76 years old. He's part of the establishment when the party wants change. His record is complicated. The Iraq vote, the crime bill, the Anita Hill hearings. June 2019. First Democratic debate in Miami. 20 candidates split over 2 nights. Biden is in the second night with the main contenders. Kamala Harris directly attacks him on school integration through busing in the 1970s. There was a little girl in California who was part of the second class to integrate their public schools, and she was bused to school every day. That girl was me. It's devastating. Biden looks old and confused. He stutters his answer. The media declares Harris won the night. Biden's polls are falling. In subsequent debates, other candidates attack him. His age. His stutter resurfaces under pressure. He occasionally gets confused. He mixes up cities, forgets names, loses a thread. February 3rd, 2020. Iowa caucuses. Biden needs a strong start. He invests massive resources. But the night is catastrophic. He finishes 4th. Pete Buttigieg wins. Bernie Sanders is 2nd. Elizabeth Warren is 3rd. Biden is almost eliminated before the start. The media writes political obituaries. Biden is finished. The campaign is collapsing. Donors panic. Staffers consider resignations. Biden travels to New Hampshire defeated. In the next primary, he finishes 5th. It's humiliating. 2 states, 2 disasters. The campaign is in intensive care. Biden travels to South Carolina in desperation. It's his last chance. If he loses here, the race is over. Jim Clyburn, the most powerful African-American Democratic representative in Congress, is the key. He represents the district around Charleston. His endorsement mobilizes African-American voters, who constitute the majority in South Carolina's Democratic primary. Clyburn initially doesn't pledge support. He watches Biden struggle. Finally, on February 26th, 3 days before the vote, Clyburn publicly endorses him. I know Joe Biden. I've known him for years. He knows us. That's enough. February 29th, 2020. South Carolina primary. Biden wins overwhelmingly. 48% of the vote. Sanders has 20%. It's a landslide victory. 3 days later, Super Tuesday. 14 states vote simultaneously. Buttigieg and Klobuchar drop out and endorse Biden. The Democratic establishment consolidates around him to stop Sanders. Biden wins 10 of 14 states. His campaign is miraculously resurrected. From near death in Iowa to national favorite in a month, it's the most dramatic political comeback in recent history. By March, he's effectively the nominee. Sanders continues, but with no realistic path. Biden has done the impossible again. March 2020. COVID-19 shuts down the country. In-person campaigns are canceled. America goes into lockdown. Biden campaigns from the basement of his home in Delaware. Republicans mock. Sleepy Joe in the basement. Trump holds rallies. Biden does Zoom broadcasts with technical issues. But the strategy works. Trump mishandles the pandemic. Cases explode. The economy collapses. Voters blame Trump. Biden simply needs to avoid major mistakes. Remain stable. Appear competent compared to Trump's chaos. August 2020. Biden must choose a running mate. He promised to pick a woman. Multiple names are being floated. Harris, Warren, Whitmer, Demings. Kamala Harris is the obvious choice. A senator from California. She has experience as a prosecutor, and she's a woman of color, African American and South Asian. She attacked Biden in the debates, which worries some advisors, but also shows she's a fighter. On August 11th, Biden announces Harris. It's historic. The first African American and South Asian woman on a major party presidential ticket. September 29th, 2020. First presidential debate in Cleveland. It's chaotic. Trump constantly interrupts. He insults Biden. The moderator loses control. Biden tries to stay calm but occasionally explodes. "Will you shut up, man?" he says to Trump at one point. It goes viral. In the second debate, with microphones muted to avoid interruptions, Biden is more effective. He speaks directly to the camera. He projects empathy. He appears presidential while Trump seems erratic. November 3rd, 2020. Election Day. Biden votes early in Delaware and returns home to wait. Results trickle in. Key states are too close to call. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, the states Trump won in 2016, are undecided. Georgia is incredibly close. Arizona is leaning toward Biden but is undecided. Biden leads by millions in the popular vote, but the Electoral College is the only thing that matters. The entire nation waits while mail-in votes are counted. Trump prematurely declares victory. Biden urges patience. For 4 days, America remains in suspense. Votes are counted. Margins shift. Finally, on Saturday, November 7th, the news networks declare Biden the winner after Pennsylvania turned blue. At 77 years old, after 2 failed bids, after decades of personal tragedy and resilience, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. will be the 46th President of the United States. January 6, 2021. Biden watches in horror on television from Wilmington. A violent mob storms the U.S. Capitol. They're there because of Trump, who incited them with lies about a stolen election. They break windows. They beat up police officers. They search for Pence to hang him. They search for Pelosi. They enter the Senate chamber. It's an attempted coup, imperfect and disorganized, but a coup. Biden must give an impromptu speech. It's not a protest, it's an insurrection, he declares. His presidency hasn't officially begun, and he's already facing a constitutional crisis. 14 days later, Trump is impeached for the second time, but the Senate does not convict him. Trump survives politically. The wound in American democracy remains open. January 20th, 2021. Washington, D.C. resembles a war zone. 25,000 National Guard troops surround the Capitol. Barbed wire. Checkpoints. Fear of more violence. Biden is sworn in before a small crowd due to COVID and security concerns. At 78, he is the oldest president ever sworn in. His remarks focus on unity and healing. This is America's hour, he says. Democracy has prevailed. But his words ring hollow against the backdrop of the insurrection 2 weeks ago and 20,000 troops. Biden inherits multiple simultaneous crises. COVID has killed 400,000 Americans. The economy is shattered. Unemployment is massive. Schools are closed. His first priority is vaccines. He launches a massive campaign to speed up distribution. He sets a goal of 100 million vaccines in 100 days. Republicans call him unambitious. He achieves it. He also pushes the American Rescue Package, $1.9 trillion in stimulus. Not a single Republican votes for it. It passes through budget reconciliation. He sends $1,400 checks to millions of Americans. By summer, the economy is rebounding. Vaccines are working. COVID cases are dropping dramatically. Biden appears effective. Biden faces legacy decision. Trump negotiated a May 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan. Biden extended the deadline to August to allow for an orderly withdrawal. But when the troops begin to withdraw, the Afghan government collapses instantly. The Taliban advances across the country almost unchallenged. Kabul falls within days. August 2021. Chaotic scenes at Kabul airport. Desperate Afghans clinging to planes. 13 U.S. soldiers killed in an ISIS suicide attack. Biden stands firm, but the images are devastating. The war in Afghanistan had to end. Biden says defiantly, but his approval rating is dropping significantly. He seems old, stubborn, out of touch. Biden is trying to pass two massive packages, the American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan. Together, they total nearly $4 trillion. These include infrastructure, child care, free community college, and climate change. Republicans are completely opposed. But even moderate Democrats, Manchin and Sinema, reject the price. Biden negotiates for months. Finally, a bipartisan $1 trillion infrastructure package passed in November 2021. It's a significant achievement, but greatly diminished by its original vision. A second package, scale back and rename the Inflation Reduction Act, eventually passed in August 2022. It includes climate spending and allows Medicare to negotiate drug prices. These are real legislative victories, but Biden gets no political credit. Inflation dominates the news. 2022, inflation explodes to its highest level in 40 years. Gasoline prices reach record averages. Groceries become unaffordable for many. Biden blames Putin for invading Ukraine. He blames supply chain disruptions. He blames corporate greed. Voters blame him. His approval rating drops to 30. Republicans call him incompetent, senile, and out of touch. Democrats are preparing for a midterm massacre. February 2022. Putin invades Ukraine in an all-out war. The world waits to see how Biden responds. Biden leads. He orchestrates massive international sanctions against Russia. He sends billions in arms to Ukraine. He strengthens NATO. He visits Poland and Kiev. Putin can't stay in power, Biden says in Warsaw. His advisors are quick to clarify that he's not calling for regime change, but the message is clear. This is Biden's strongest moment as president. He seems statesmanlike, experienced, and steady. His decades in foreign policy matter. November 8th, 2022. Midterm elections. Historically, the president's party loses heavily in midterm elections. Everyone expects a Republican red wave. It doesn't happen. Democrats retain the Senate. They narrowly lose the House. It's a surprisingly good result. Biden calls it a victory. Republicans call it a failure of expectations. Reality is somewhere in between. But Biden survives. 2023. Biden is 80 years old. Questions about his age become impossible to ignore. He stumbles climbing stairs. He gets confused at press conferences. He occasionally appears lost. Viral videos show him momentarily freezing, mixing up names, losing his train of thought. Republicans create compilations. Is Biden mentally fit? Her team insists she's fine. Jill becomes more protective, but the concern is bipartisan. Even some Democrats are privately whispering about her ability. April 2023. Biden announces his re-election bid. He's committed to finishing the job, to defeating Trump again if necessary. He's 80 years old. If he wins, he'll be 86 by the end of his second term. Kamala Harris is in the shadows. Other Democrats are considering challenges, but no one dares. The Democratic establishment is consolidating around Biden again. There's no serious primary. He easily wins the nomination, but secretly many are afraid. Can an 81-year-old man really campaign effectively? Can he govern until 86? Can he defeat Trump, who will also face legal proceedings but maintains a solid base? The answer will come soon. But first, something unexpected will happen that will change everything. June 27, 2024. Atlanta, Georgia. The first presidential debate between Biden and Trump. It's unusually early in the election cycle. Biden requested it, believing an early victory would build momentum. The first 90 seconds destroy your campaign. Biden appears frail, confused, and lost. His voice is hoarse. He trails off mid-sentence. In an answer about Medicare, he says, "We finally beat Medicare." It doesn't make sense. Trump, usually chaotic, simply watches as Biden self-destructs. 70 million Americans watch in horror or satisfaction, depending on their affiliation. Biden advisors' phones instantly explode. Donors panic. Prominent Democrats are dumbfounded with shock. The debate ends and the consensus is universal. It was catastrophic. For days after the debate, the narrative shifts from can Biden win to can Biden continue? The liberal media that protected him for months is now asking pointed questions. New York Times editorial. Serving his country, President Biden should step down. Stories emerge about how his team protected him. Limited meetings, rare press conferences, carefully managed events. Accusations that the cabinet knew of his decline, but hid it from the public. Biden insists he'll continue. "No one will remove me," he says defiantly in a call with campaign staff. But the pressure is mounting. July 2024. Behind the scenes, the most powerful Democratic leaders are having extraordinary conversations. Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. They must force Biden to step down. But they can't do it publicly without creating a schism in the party. It must be his decision. It must appear to be his decision. Obama calls Biden. They talk for an hour. Obama is careful, respectful, but firm. "Joe, the numbers don't lie. We can't win like this. And if we lose, Trump would destroy everything we've built." Pelosi is more direct in her remarks. "Mr. Speaker, I love and respect everything you've done, but the facts are clear. We will lose the House, the Senate, and the presidency if you continue." Schumer visits the White House personally. "Joe, you'll be remembered as a hero if you retire. But if you lose to Trump, that will be your legacy." Biden struggles with the pressure. His ego, after decades of ambition, can't accept willful defeat. He survived so much. He's persevered against all odds. Why give up now? Jill is his main ally. "Don't let them take you out," she urges. "You've earned the right to end this on your own terms." But donors are closing their wallets. Polls show he's losing every key state. Democratic members of Congress are publicly calling for his withdrawal. The party is in open rebellion. Hunter, his only surviving son, is also under intense scrutiny. His legal troubles, gun charges, tax evasion, become Republican ammunition. Every day brings new humiliation. July 21st, 2024. Biden is in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, recovering from COVID, his second infection. He's isolated, exhausted, facing reality. Jill finally accepts the inevitable. "Joe, you fought enough. You've given enough. It's okay to stop." His grandchildren visit him. They hug him. They tell him they love him. That nothing defines his worth as a person. that he's achieved more than most dream of. Biden thinks of Beau, of Nylia, of Naomi, of all the years of struggle. He came further than that stuttering kid from Scranton ever imagined possible. That afternoon, Biden instructs his staff to prepare a statement. July 21st, 2024, 1:05 p.m. Biden posts a letter on social media. No press conference. No televised speech. Just words on a page. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. Although it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country that I step down. He endorses Kamala Harris for president. Within minutes, the news explodes globally. A sitting president withdraws from re-election. It hasn't happened since Lyndon Johnson in 1968. Harris quickly secures the nomination. Donors return. The party's energy surges. Polls tighten. Democrats have a chance again. Biden watches from the sidelines. He occasionally campaigns for Harris, but mostly stays out of sight. It's painful. He should be the nominee. He won in 2020. He defeated Trump. But it's not their story anymore. It's the end of their story. November 5th, 2024. Biden watches the results from the White House. He's a spectator rather than a participant. The feeling is surreal. The states are starting to close. The results are coming in. It's close. Incredibly close. Some states are decided by thousands of votes. Note, since we are in October 2025, the actual results are known, but for the purposes of the documentary, we maintain the narrative tension of a moment. Trump wins. He returns to the presidency. The Democratic nightmare is realized. Biden watches with an inscrutable expression. Would he have won? He'll never know. The final months of Biden's presidency are bittersweet. He's a lame duck president watching Trump prepare to dismantle his legacy. He grants pardons. He makes last-minute appointments. He tries to cement policies that Trump can't easily reverse. But he knows much will be destroyed. His approval rating remains low. The immediate story is not kind. Analyses focus on his age, the cover-up, and the disastrous debate. His legislative achievements are briefly mentioned and then forgotten. January 20th, 2025. Biden attends Trump's inauguration. He must smile and act civil while the man he despises is seized power. He travels back to Delaware that afternoon. For the first time in more than 50 years, he doesn't hold public office. He's 82. Jill is 74. Finally, after decades, they're truly retired. Biden spends time with his grandchildren. He reads. He walks on the beach. He occasionally gives reflective interviews about his career. He's working on another memoir series. How will he be remembered? It's complicated. He won the presidency after 2 failed attempts. He passed significant legislation. He led the international response to Russian aggression. But he also stayed too long. His refusal to acknowledge his limitations arguably handed the country back to Trump. It's a Shakespearean tragedy. The man who overcame unimaginable tragedies, who demonstrated extraordinary resilience, who ultimately achieved supreme power, couldn't overcome his own ambition enough to unleash it at the right moment. Joe Biden's story is quintessentially American: boundless ambition, devastating tragedy, unwavering resilience, eventual success, and finally, the inability to recognize when the story is over. From the streets of Scranton to the Oval Office, Biden lived 9 lives. The stuttering child who became a senator, the young father who lost his wife and daughter, the senator who survived brain aneurysms, the failed presidential candidate, twice, the loyal vice president, the father who buried his perfect son, the oldest president in history. Every chapter could have been the end. Every tragedy could have destroyed him. But Biden kept going. He always kept going. That was his greatest strength and, eventually, his greatest weakness. He persevered when he should have persevered, but he also persevered when he should have retreated. In his own words, spoken decades ago when he was a young senator still mourning Nylia, life is change. Growth is optional. Choose wisely. Joe Biden chose to grow from tragedy. He rebuilt his life repeatedly. He reached heights the Scranton boy never imagined. But in the end, he didn't choose wisely when to stop. And that final choice can define how history will remember him. A man who survived everything, except his own ambition. This documentary presents Joe Biden's life based exclusively on verifiable facts up to January 2025, with a projection through October 2025 based on known events. Every date, name, and significant event is real. The narrative seeks to be balanced. It recognizes genuine achievements while honestly examining failures, contradictions, and questionable decisions. Biden is presented as a complex figure, neither a villain nor a hero, but a deeply flawed human being who experienced extraordinary suffering and exercised extraordinary ambition. His story is inseparable from modern American history. Vietnam, Watergate, the Cold War, 9/11, the Great Recession, Trump, the pandemic. For 50 years, he was present at the moments that defined a nation. He deserves to be remembered for his resilience. He deserves to be examined for his choices. He deserves to be understood as a complete human being. This is her story. Complicated, tragic, triumphant, and, in the end, deeply human.